I'm Katherine Ambrose. Thank you so much for being here today. We have the most incredible gathering of professionals in this room here to support all of you in our program and our learning today. We have professionals checking us out to see what you all look like, see if it might be worth investing in. And we could really use the investment because we are a nonprofit. And okay. All right, so we're going to ask everybody to silence their phones and kind of quiet the side talk so that everybody can hear. Because if there's one thing I know, if you can't hear, it makes you grumpy. Right? Okay. So if you're feeling grumpy at any point today because you can't hear, feel free to get up and change seats or wave your arms, give us a signal. Okay, let us know if you're really struggling. Everybody that talks on the microphone today, make sure that you aren't too shy to speak up because they want to hear what you have to say, right? So you need to speak up and you need to have the mic close to your lips. Okay? All right. So the nest egg talk, the truth about spending and protecting money. Who wore green today? Stand up if you wore green. I thought about it, but I didn't. Good job dressing for the theme. Okay. I want to tell you I'm a little bit nervous today. You want to know why? Because when people come to hear me talk about decluttering, sometimes they can get a little upset because they want a magical list that will make them go home and do the work. I wanted a list. But you already know how to clean your house, right? You already have an idea of what it would take to clean out your closets and get rid of extra stuff. So you kind of already have a list in your head. You know how to find a list. What's the challenge with actually getting to it and cleaning out the basement or the attic or the garage or the closet? It sounds like you know. Getting started. Why is it hard to get started? You bonded with that stuff. And it's hard to give it away. And what did you say, Angela? You what? You don't have a goal. Thank you very much. You don't have a deadline. Okay, so that means you have a lack of focus. A deadline gives you focus. If you can't find a focus, then you're going to wait till you have a deadline. Sometimes, though, we never know when that deadline's going to be, and we're going to talk about that today. So you don't really need a list. You need motivation. Maybe you need a deadline. But somehow, we got to kind of tweak our brain a little bit so that we take action. So who is here today because you want to know exactly where to invest your money? Okay. Thank goodness. We got one person back here that's expecting that. Why are you here today to talk about money? Maybe you just come every month, and we are so glad you do. We wish you didn't pay attention to the topic, so you just showed up. I'd like to just surprise you every month.
How to speak to my investor.
Oh, how to speak to my investor. Can we cover that today? If you're not on the panel, professionals in the room, attendees in the room, and you have really good input, I really beg you to think about what you're going to say, put down a few notes to remind yourself, and stand up today and talk on the mic and share some good information because people are here to learn. Who's here to learn today? Pretty much everybody. Who's here for the free coffee and the cookies? Hey, love it. I love it. All right, so we're here to learn. Do you have something to take notes on? Okay, if not, get a pen from one of these awesome people around the room that are giving away pens. Get some paper, borrow what you need from your neighbor. Get ready to take some notes. Okay, I'm Katherine Ambrose, America's Senior Home Coach, because you know what we're doing here in Wichita is really weird. These kind of gatherings aren't really happening in a big way to this extent almost anywhere. Reno and Oklahoma City, those are the only two cities that have an ongoing seminar where this many people attend. So there's people all over the country that might be watching this live stream or the recording that are real curious about how they can provide information that people want to come to. So I think this is going to be more and more popular. It's really important to learn everything we can for this stage of life, for every stage of life. They sent us to kindergarten and elementary school and high school, right? Because we were preparing for life. When's the last time you took a pop quiz? Who just broke out in a sweat because I said that? All right, when's the last time you took a written test? Okay, guess what? I don't want to discourage you from coming, and remember, we have cookies and coffee. But next month, we're going to talk about back to school. We're going to test your knowledge. You don't need to study to prepare, because we're just going to see where you are next month. But the professionals in this room are going to send me questions for a little fun quiz, and then they're going to come up and give us the answers, and we're going to talk about that. Because there's so many topics related to aging that we cover or maybe need to add to our list. And I think that a primer is really important. So today we're really going to take a deep dive into money and really the emotions around money and how to tap into professionals that can help us with our money questions. We'll take a deep dive. Next month we're going to learn what are all the different subjects involved with aging. Did you have an opportunity in high school, or maybe you helped your kids pick out what courses they were going to take? You put some thought into it. Are we going to take Spanish, or are we going to take French, and why? Why did you say Spanish instead of French, or vice versa? Do you remember? Okay, so Rosie already knows Spanish, so she said I have to learn French. She flunked twice. Now that's another Romance language. I think you'd have an advantage. All right. Reminder again to silence the phones. I want to thank the education partners in the room. These companies, Blue STEM Communities, American Senior Benefits, they're speaking today. Oxford Senior Living, back there in the corner. The Regent, a brand new sponsor. We're so excited to have you on board. And Jacob Kerrigan is going to speak today. Sedgwick Plaza, I don't know if they're here today. Whoop. Providence, is Pam here? Yay! Pam, I know you're kind of shy when it comes to being on the mic, but I really do want you to think about input. Well, sneak me a note, okay? Because I think you're going to be thinking thoughts while we talk about money, okay? And so I want you to put your input down or your questions down on paper, okay? Adult Day Services from the Catholic Diocese, thank you so much for being here. Y'all ought to go see her building. It is really incredible. And if you knew what that building looked like before, wow, it's amazing. So, all right, Morris Lang Law Firm, thank you, gentlemen. Okay, I'd really like for the attorneys in the room to be thinking about the topic that we're talking about today, because I know you know everything that they should know, and so I want you to be prepared to give input, and we brought a couple extra chairs because we're going to pick your brain later. Fleece and Gooing, they brought the coffee back there. How much do you like having coffee? It's awesome. And Humana. These are our television sponsors. Without them, we couldn't do the show. American Senior Benefits, Sedgwick Plaza, Blue STEM, Fleece and Going, thank you very much. We need to get your episodes made also, because I know you have really great stories to share, and we need to get your topics on the air. And our seminar sponsors. Do we have veterans in the room? We would like to honor your service and what you've done for us, your hero, the day you signed your name on the line. Whether you were called into service or called overseas or not, we appreciate that you were willing to sign that paperwork and put it all out for us. Any veterans that would like to come up to the front of the room and lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. We're very lucky to live in this country, no matter what. No matter what. We won the lottery being in this country, and our country could use our support. All right, let's go.
Hats off, please, for the men. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I see my childhood friend, Joni, over here. Her daughter is one of the professional photographers that's normally here. She couldn't come today, so she gave her mother a 10-minute lesson on that camera. And she's going to edit the photos. Delno Eby, our other photographer who's been with us for 5 years, you know he's a big fancy movie star that happens to live here in Wichita, and he's on set filming a movie. So he can't be here. I guess filming a movie takes precedence, whatever. So Joni's going to do the best she can, but I would like your help. Photos are really important to tell our story and to help us make connections. And so, who has a cell phone in here that takes pictures? Make sure it's on silent, but please help us by taking pictures and sharing those pictures with us. We like Facebook. We put everything on the Facebook page, Empowered Senior. Or you could email us photos, but we'd really love to see your photos, or you could tag us. Do you know how to tag? Maybe we should do something on social media sometime. All right, so how did all this come about? Well, my husband Randy, back there, he's shy. Now, not in person, but I just can't get him to the front of the room very often. Just like Pam. She's not shy in person. She just doesn't want to come up to the front. So this started out because I have done real estate my whole entire life, and before that I did apartment management. I've been a realtor since 1988. I started both Keller Williams real estate offices, recruited and trained agents for years, and I'm just kind of tired of the regular stuff with real estate. I don't want to do real estate today the way I've done real estate my whole life, and I decided that I want to dedicate the rest of my life to seniors. Now, Joni's mother, Mary Jane, was our Girl Scout leader when we were little girls, and I've learned so much from her. And as we went through Girl Scouts, we eventually ended up at the Catholic Care Center. I don't know what it was called, but it was by St. Joseph Hospital. We went to a nursing home, has a field trip for Girl Scouts. And I just really was touched by the people I met there. And so I started going a few times a week after school. I would walk from school to the nursing home to visit with people there. That made a profound impact on me. Spent most of my life raising my kids, doing real estate, but now I'm so happy because I feel like my life has come full circle, and I have this amazing opportunity to give back to seniors and help prepare people better for aging. And it's probably most people's worst nightmare to end up in a nursing home, because we think of the kind of nursing home that we toured. You probably don't want to go there. That one's not even around anymore. But some of those are not where you necessarily want to be. Unlike the gorgeous Regent and Oxford Villa, Oxford Grand, beautiful retirement living communities. And there's just a lot more options today. And if we can have some luck and put some focus into our health and wellness, we can age better and age the way we would like to. And has a priest told me that I just interviewed for TV, Father Welk, who's Lawrence Welk's cousin. Isn't that cool? Yeah. He said that he wants people to live with passion and live fully until our last breath. And he's one of the founders of Harry Hines Hospice. And the goal with hospice is that you're comfortable and you can really live as pain-free as possible. Pam, this would be a perfect thing for you to talk about. But it's about being able to live all the way, slide into home base. So what we do in-home consults, we do family meetings. I talk to people on the phone, talk to family members, talk to seniors, help people sort things out, and get you in the hands of the attorneys and financial planners and different people that really can make a difference in your life. Somebody just contacted me the other day for a dog sitter for while they're on vacation. And so if I don't know the answer, I can find the answer. And that's what our nonprofit does. We also help manage moves, which is way more complex than what you might think. But it's a specialty that we have, and then we do our education and PBS television. How we make a living is not by doing any of this stuff. All of this is done as a volunteer, and it's my full-time job. But how we feed our family is real estate. So we'd sure like for you to think about us when you know somebody that's thinking about doing real estate. The sponsors in this room, they all do different things, that they're here to support education, which I think is amazing. And I hope that you'll support them back by getting to know who they are and calling them with questions that you have. Just like myself, they have fabulous connections, and if you call them, they can help get you in the right direction. Downsizers Club, it's the Tuesday before seminar every month, and it's free. It's 2 to 3:30. If you'd like to learn more about downsizing, you're welcome to attend that. Ambassadors. Can we have a round of applause for our ambassadors that helped check us in today? They came up with that on their own. I just showed up last month and saw they were all there. And suddenly, registering is so much better. And they're really helping us with ideas and taking ownership of this nonprofit, which is helping us tremendously, because I really do want you to feel like you're part of something special, because you are, and that this is your organization, and it's a place where you can share your other events, your other ideas, and let's help each other out. So thank you to ambassadors for supporting us. Okay, so I'm going to talk today. Now, you know, if you've been coming, I like to talk about some of the airy-fairy things, you know, about passion and health and wellness. I'm maybe not the best person to talk about money, because do you remember when KMH went out of business and all 60 residents were told they had to get out by the end of the year? They were told that right before Thanksgiving. It was horrifying. We were called in to help. We ended up being their solution to how to help people transition, find a new place to go, and all of that. And I went in there and just started spending money like water, paying our staff for hours that we could never get paid for. We got some donations, especially thank you to Donette on our team, our lead move manager. Is Dee here today? Oh, Dee saved us, her and her family. They donated and helped us survive and get through December. We went into that crisis with a little bit of money. We came out of that crisis with nothing, absolutely nothing. I was able to get a placement business started to support the nonprofit. So what we do is we help seniors find the appropriate housing. So if you know someone that needs help finding housing, when we do that, we can get paid. The money goes 100% to the nonprofit to to fund us. So the way we self-fund is by the education partners and by placement. Those are our only two sources. And the ambassadors were so great today to attach our donation envelopes to your card. If you have the ability to donate to this organization, we would so appreciate it. I can't stress how much we could use it. So like I said, I might not be the best person to talk about money. I kind of joke about real estate agents don't know to ask for money. Does that sound like a weird thing to say? But think about it. When you list your house, do they ask you to write them a check? No. Realtors, I'm serious, don't know how to ask for money because realtors get paid at the closing. If everything goes right, and if they're still the realtor on closing day, and it closes, and there's enough money to fund, all these things happen, they get paid. But most realtors aren't real good at asking for money, and I really haven't had to ask for money before, and it's a totally different thing. And money is a touchy subject. Yes, it is. Mindy, sometimes you say we're raised by a generation that didn't talk about what?
Well, we were raised by the silent generation, and it was impolite to discuss sex, politics, religion, or money. But if you look in the news today, what are in the headlines? Sex, politics, religion, and money. So I think we need to really emphasize the money aspect so that when we find ourselves, single, we know how to manage our funds, and we don't have to rely on a government, a family, or another person to support us.
Thank you very much. So we were raised by people that didn't talk about money, and maybe that's how you've been your whole life. And you're probably thinking a lot of thoughts when we're talking about anything, but probably when we're talking about money, thinking a lot of thoughts. There's people in this room that are judging whether we're talking to them or we're just talking to the rich people in the room. Okay? And no matter how much money you have, there's going to be plenty of opportunity to be offended. Can't you find a good way to be offended on anything? And you can see that in the news and see that on social media. Stress is a big factor in our life for aging well, and if we could de-stress, that would help us age better. And when we get super offended, we're stressed out. And sometimes being offended is a habit. And I think in the third act of life, if we can learn how to be unoffendable, that would be a really good habit. And that would be success. Sliding into home base, learning not to be offended at everything. Who never gets offended about anything? Woohoo! I believe that. Cherie. Who else raised their hand? Who never gets offended? Kudos to you. We didn't see very many hands, did we? So let's practice being unoffendable today when we talk about money. And so since I'm not going to tell you where to invest your money, I'm just going to speak from the heart. Is that okay? All right. A friend of mine called yesterday from Oklahoma City. She comes here sometimes to work for flight safety, so I assumed she was in town. She said, I think I'm going to come to your seminar. I'm like, oh my gosh, that'd be awesome. We're talking about money. She goes, I know, that's why I'm thinking about coming. And then I found out she's in Oklahoma City, and she was thinking about driving all the way here for this. And the reason why is because she's managing her portfolio and her husband's portfolio, and she's thinking about that a lot. And so she thought if she came here, we were going to teach her how to manage her portfolio. Now, she told me about this game, Investopedia Simulator. Apparently, they give you $100,000 fake money, and you can play a game, real trading, practice trading with virtual money to sharpen your knowledge of how the stock market works. So that's pretty cool. And so I was glad she called and shared that. And I said, really we're going to talk a lot about the emotion of money and some storytelling today that people need to hear, because what we're trying to do is inspire you to take action and talk to the people you really need to talk to about your money, because that's not me. If you want to know how much your house is worth, we can talk to you. If my husband says that your house is worth this much, you can take that amount of money to the bank, because that's what it's going to be. So we're experts at that. And money, the money that is in your house is a big part of retirement for most people. In fact, for some people, that's the only retirement they have at all, period. And sometimes they still have a mortgage. The equity that's left, the cash that's left, that's the only money they have for retirement. And if there are people in this room that are wondering, how do we survive without money? I'm glad you're here, because you've really got to do your homework just like everybody else and really figure out solutions ahead of time. I had a lady tell me that, I said, what are you going to do when you run out of money? And her jaw kind of dropped, because she knew she was going to run out of money, and I think she was kind of surprised that I knew that too. And she said, well, I guess then the government's going to take care of me. Joni, what was that nursing home like that we visited in the late 70s? Okay, that's kind of what you're going to end up with, unless you think ahead of time how to strategize and figure out something else, because there are good places that will take Medicaid, but you can't do that at the last minute. That has to be planned, really planned carefully, and you cannot plan it. It's impossible. Your kids can't plan it. Your kids can call every single community or facility in the area. They are not going to know what you need to do. So you need to talk to professionals that know how to do it, because there's help, and you've got to figure it out ahead of time. And that's the same with all of us when it comes to money. No matter how much money we have to figure things out ahead of time. Who was thrown off by the detour signs today? It seems like there's something going on every month. So I came flying up Murdoch, road closed. What the heck? I went past that sign just to make sure. And by golly, the road was closed. I had to turn around and go a different way. And I was so confused at the signs. Were you confused? I bet you somebody was so confused they got mad and left, and they didn't even come to the seminar. So congratulations to you for not getting so offended that you actually parked and came on in. I hate it when people ask me how to get to Botanica. Hate it. Would you know how to tell people how to get here? Like, we know how to get here, but don't ask us how. Okay, so things throw us off. Okay, it's easy to get thrown off. It's easy to get surprised. Just recently, we got a phone call that my Uncle Pat, who's 73, so I'm counting how old I am now to the time I get to be 73. And Dad died when he was 73. I bet my Uncle Pat, who's always been into fitness, thought he'd live a lot longer than my dad, because my dad was very overweight. And Pat has always been trim, had muscles, lots of equipment in his house to stay in shape. And he's got 30 days to a year to live. Stage 4 brain cancer, had a huge tumor removed. Shocked. Everybody in the family shocked. Even people that weren't even talking to Uncle Pat for years and years are shocked and heartbroken. Because when it comes right down to things, it doesn't matter what's happened in life. Those people that you grew up with, that's important. Those relationships are important. And we talk about relationships and communication, but he wasn't expecting that. He runs a huge restaurant. What the heck is he going to do? What's his wife going to do? Things happen by surprise. We can try to be safe and not climb a ladder, although I know y'all do some things you shouldn't do. I don't climb ladders. I'm trying to be safe. And want to invite me to snow skiing? I'm probably not going. I might go just for fun and have some cocktails and look at the beauty, but I'm probably not going to ski because I don't want to get hurt. But isn't it true that we could just be walking and break our ankle? Okay. Huh? Yes, all kinds of terrible things can happen. Now, I don't think my business coach is here. She didn't like me to be negative. But how can we not talk about some challenging things when we're talking about getting old? This isn't for sissies, right? I think Mike Carolyn said that one time. It's not for sissies. It's not easy. And things catch us by surprise. So I just realized that the age I am right now is the same age that my dad was when he had a triple bypass. I really remember that. Whew. And when I first took my real estate course back in 1988, I had another uncle tell me, it's really hard. Most people fail it. So I was taking my course through WSU, and I decided that I would go take the test for practice, get one failure over with, and get a feel for the test. So I borrowed a manual that he had, and I sat in the WSU parking lot, and I flipped through it, and I'm like, this is like cheating. It just, the answers are right there. I went in and I passed that test. And when I got the notice, I didn't understand the notice. It was super weird. The notice came in the mail. Today, they just tell you right then if you passed. We were at dinner together. Uncle Dave about fell off of his chair when I told him what this notice said. He's like, you passed that. I'm like, I don't know. I do a lot of things at the last minute, but it's occurring to me that as I age, I might not have that capacity moving forward, because capacity changes. The way we are right now today, a year from now, 5 years from now, 10 years from now, can't be the same as the way we were years ago. Now, I have a doctor. I'm going to give you a big tip. This is why you have a pen in your hand. Mindy told me about this doctor, and she interviewed this doctor on TV. Her name's Dr. Ray Rogers, R-H-E-A Rogers. She's trying to help me get my hormones back in the condition that they were when I was young to help prevent cataracts, breast cancer, ovarian cancer, this huge list. I just ordered a book she wants me to read so I can understand this better. Then we're going to work on the gut, because the gut is so important. Are any of you guys working with doctors like this that are trying to help you get back to metabolic optimization, hormone optimization? Because I'm a little worried that I might not be as smart as I want to be. I'm only working with so much. And we never know when things might change. Weight has been a challenge for me. I've dropped 22 pounds being on this program so far. It's science, it's not me. It's medications. So, guess what? Doctors like that, they don't take your insurance. Okay, so now everybody's offended. Okay, because that's the first thing. When we suggest something, well, how much does that cost? Do they take insurance? No, they don't take insurance. I tell you this every single month. They don't take insurance, and that's why it's so good. Go to your doctors that take insurance for the stuff that you can get there, but go and spend some money if you have some. What are you saving it for? Spend some money on keeping your brain healthy, keeping your body as healthy as possible. You wouldn't believe what some of these physicians have to offer, but you got to ask. And I started going in faith to this doctor. Yesterday I had a checkup, and I was shocked I learned so much more. There's a lot to it. There's people that have a lot of passion in their field of expertise. They're learning all the time. We got to go find those people. That's my opinion, so we can age the best that we possibly can. All right. One way that I can get more accomplished is I know how to use leverage. Having started a couple of real estate companies, I had a lot of training and I had a lot of leverage. So if it wasn't for my husband and my daughter and my friends and the sponsors in this room and Bretta, our event coordinator, I wouldn't be able to do this. This morning I was making calls, getting more slides made, getting other things done. This couldn't happen without the people in this room. How well do you use leverage? And are you using the right people for the right jobs? Because when you try to get help from the wrong people, it doesn't work out. It's kind of like getting mad at your kids for not helping you move. Well, are they professional movers? Are they professional organizers? Do they have other things going on in their life? Yes. And sometimes talking things over with friends on a subject, like if you think about when you maybe were expecting a baby. You know, when you're expecting a baby, everybody wants to touch your belly and they want to tell you what their birth experience was like and whether they got an epidural, whether they got this. Is that helpful? Sometimes it might give you some food for thought, but then I hope you talk to your doctor and people that can really help you. Okay, because not everybody can tell you how to be successful breastfeeding, right? So you got to ask the right people the right stuff. And a lot of the right people are in this room. And the biggest challenge I see for aging is people waiting too long. And so, thank goodness my coach isn't here. My mom likes me to keep everything positive and happy too. We want it to be fun. We'll try to do our best. But we're also here to learn things that maybe we need to know, not just what we want to know. And so we see a lot of sad stuff. So my whole life has been about selling the American dream. And a lot of realtors, when they first get in the business, they want to work with first-time buyers because it's easy, because the realtor knows more than the buyer for sure. And they just like it. It's like easy to go happy to look at houses with buyers. It gets harder if you're going to be a listing agent or you're going to work with more challenging things. Do you see very many realtors talking to older people? There's over 2,000 realtors in here. Not one in this city, not one other realtor is really out there dedicated to seniors. You know why? Because it's hard. And all these topics that the people in here cover are so complex. And we're not equipped to really help people or even really understand everything that's going on. But relating it to the American dream, what was the American dream about? Marriage, home, owning your own home, maybe getting married, maybe raising a family, a place to create memories. It's also about building wealth. Because if you can pay off your house, it makes it easier to retire. Okay? We get to live here for free. Well, it's really not free, but it's nice if you don't have a payment. If the house is paid off, you're sitting on a bunch of cash. And I would challenge you can live wherever you want, but I would challenge you to think about this. It's not free because it's costing a lot of money to maintain. It's not as free as we think. And you're sitting on a pile of cash that's not earning money. And I think that you did your job owning a home, building wealth, and at some point you might think about selling and investing the cash in something else that's safer and that funds your life better. Because the house we raised our children in, see the two-story house? We bought a two-story one time with 4 bedrooms up on the second level. So the children are on the same level with us. Everybody's sleeping on the same level. The laundry room is upstairs, so we didn't have to carry laundry up and down. A lot of seniors have the laundry room in their basement and just go a step at a time. I had a lady explain yesterday, she carries the laundry bag, tosses it down so it goes around the corner, and I don't know how long it probably takes her to go down those stairs. 2019, she said she couldn't do her laundry downstairs, so she had a cleaning lady come once a week that would do her laundry. Well, now, I'm doing my laundry now. You are? And so she explained how she does it. She lives on the main floor of her home. She can't really go upstairs to take a bath or to get her clothes, but she tries to get up there a couple times a week. And she looks at her bed. Oh, it would be so nice to sleep in a bed. She slept in a recliner for years, and then she just wasn't sleeping good, so she moved to a love seat. So she sleeps on a love seat. How well would you sleep on a love seat? Okay, and you have a beautiful bed upstairs. Is that house serving her anymore? She's got friends that live in the neighborhood that she just loves. But she could still engage with those friends, but she could meet a whole bunch of other friends somewhere else and have lots of activities and things to do. We talk about this a lot, that if you're in your home all the time, in your safe place, your brain isn't stimulated, and you don't realize it, but you're kind of just lulled. We need to get out and get ticked off at the detour signs and what people are doing or what people are saying, because that stress is good for us. It's good for our brains. But people sometimes have a very hard time leaving their home. And there are ways to stay in your home. You can hire somebody like Pam. She can explain everything about how you can stay in your own home and get in-home care when you need it, home health services when you need it. Cherie and her group can teach you how to fund it. Attorneys can help you with that. Financial planners can help you with that. You might consider, though, what are the other options, and can you dream a new dream, something else that might work better? And if you do sell your home and you have money coming out of the home, how are you going to invest it? I would say you want to talk to attorneys and financial planners and people that can figure out the best way to make your money last, because isn't that what we're afraid of, is that we're going to outlive our money? People really worry about getting Alzheimer's, but they also really worry about money. And some people have so much money, they're never going to run out, but they still worry about it all the time, and they're still oftentimes very unhappy. Raised by the silent generation, or impacted, influenced by that generation, and it was all about save, save, save. I think we've inherited some of those tendencies, and that's why we got so much stuff in our house, and we're keeping things in case we might need it. But some of you probably saved, and hope to leave an inheritance, maybe like your parents did or your grandparents did, and you want to kind of do it like them. That's the big thing, thinking about how can I leave money for my family. But a lot of times your family just wants you to be well and to take good care of yourself. Okay. If we can do anything to keep the noise down, that would be awesome. So the Depression era left us with a bit of a hangover when it comes to hanging on to stuff that's not healthy. And if you saved all your life for retirement, this is it. I would encourage you, if you have the means, and be real curious about whether you have the means or not. Don't assume you don't, because I know there's people that have a lot of money and they don't want to spend it. But massage. I think massage is a really healthy thing to spend money on. And I'll have you talk about that a little bit. But spend money on maybe some of these doctors that don't take insurance. Spend some money with the attorneys that can help you navigate and end up better off than you would have been had you not taken care of business. And we want to talk about living in the now, because if you're not living in the now, you're either thinking about the past, which can be painful and there can be regret, or you're thinking about the future, and the future is usually attached to fear. And if you stay in the now, you can keep that fear under control. The best thing for fear is taking action and learning what you need to know, meeting with the people that can really help counsel you so you know you got your bases covered and you have a plan. Because just like that lady that said, well, I guess the government's going to take care of me. That's not a good plan. And I think a lot of people are kind of planning that way, like, I don't know what's going to happen. Well, let's try to plan in advance and try to be prepared for what may happen, and let's take care of ourselves and spend a little money. And I hope that doesn't offend you, but I think it's really important to spend some money on your happiness, and I would sure love to see people do that. And just getting some leverage and help where you need it, and just being prepared, because again, we don't know when we might lose capacity. If we put things off, we might put it off so long that we no longer have the capacity to make good decisions, which is what we see every day. People usually wait till there's urgent crisis, and then all of a sudden it's emergency. They've got to go learn this stuff fast, which oftentimes results in mistakes and missed opportunities. We just see a lot of tragedy, too, with people that waited too long to make a move, and now that American dream has become a trap because they can't go up to take a bath, they can't sleep in their own bed. It's sad. I think we need to take care of ourselves. We were born alone. We're the only one that's having this life experience. You know, your family knows you, your friends know you, but really we need to be our own best friend and think about being a friend to our future self. That's why maybe we choose not to climb up on ladders and store things in the attic if we don't need to, or we get some help where we need it. And just plan in advance so that if we lose capacity, we aren't stuck in a place that could really leave us vulnerable. So I think our other speakers are going to address some of that as well. When I started Keller Williams, Gary Keller told us, don't own the building that you're operating your real estate office out of, because it can't be about your real estate investment. It needs to be about what's best for my business. So in real estate, there's a lot to think about. Like on commercial real estate, it's the land that has value, location, location, location. You may have witnessed sometime in your life a brand new doctor's office being just mowed down, and it was a beautiful office, nothing wrong with it, but it didn't have value. It was the land that had value, and something else got built there instead. This house, when the time comes, it's just not the appropriate investment, and there's something else to do. How many of you have seen the scam commercials on TV that somebody can steal your title? Okay. I don't think they can steal your title, but I think you could give your title to somebody, and I see that happen a lot too. So I want to talk about protecting ourselves. I see people give their title away. Now, what could I mean by that? Investors that have spent $20,000, $30,000 to learn how to romance your title away from you. And there are some companies that will hook people up with investors because they want the house sold fast, and they don't really care or understand what all's involved. An investor will come in and say, oh, I'm a senior transition specialist, and don't worry, Mary, I'm going to help you. I'll write you a check right now for $25,000, sign this. I'll take care of everything that the house needs, and I'll take care of any of the stuff you don't want, and it's all taken care of. Signs the paper. Okay. Their goal is to make $50,000 to $100,000 right then and there at that table. So they're walking away with senior equity. You've got to be really careful how you do stuff, and I think that people lose capacity, and they fall into the hands of people that are going to cash in on their money that could have funded their life, could have been an inheritance for their kids. So these are things that we need to watch out for. So when they're advertising somebody can steal your title, what are they selling? A service that you pay for something you don't need. Maybe the attorneys can correct me if I'm wrong, but this is just my perspective. But where I see people losing their title is they gave it to somebody, and they traded it cheap. I had some people that signed their title over to somebody, and then they changed their mind, and there was nothing that could be done. One of the most loving things you can do for yourself or do for your loved ones is get all of your mature life tasks done in advance. Know who you would use for home health or in-home care. Know where you would move if you were going to move someday, because a lot of you will say, I'm never moving unless I have to. But if you were to move, where would it be? Plan that out in advance. And I hope you have a really good estate planning attorney, somebody that specializes in that, because if you're maybe going to an obstetrician for brain surgery, that might not be a match, okay? You got to get the right help. Get somebody that's a specialist, and we've got 2 firms here today that you could book appointments with, and I would encourage you to do that while you have the capacity and while you're in the mood to learn about how to protect your money. They can save you a lot of money, and it's money well spent, so something to take care of. All right. That was a lot of talk. I hope you got something out of what I said. And now we're going to have somebody that really knows about money come up here and talk to you. Christiane Hill, come on up. You probably never thought I'd get you up here.
I was biting at the bit. I had so many things I wanted to say when you were saying that.
Okay, good.
Where am I going?
Wherever you want to be. You want to you want to stand up here, walk around?
I thought we were just chit-chatting is what
Oh,
you
well,
told me. Is that
chit chat to us a little bit first.
What do you want me to talk about? Money?
Yeah. They want to know about money.
Well, I really thought when I talked to Catherine, we talked about this before, she said, oh, Christiane, this is going to be easy. You're going to sit there and I'm going to ask you some questions. And some of you have seen me before. Some of you I've been in your house. Some of you have been to the office. So really, you got me a little off guard.
Okay, well, I'll ask you questions.
Go ahead.
Okay. What kind of insurance do people need and why? And how can insurance really make a difference? So you told me a story about your own parents.
Okay, so let's back up. First of all, I'm Christiane Hill. I'm the regional manager for American Senior Benefits here in Wichita. I have offices in Oklahoma, Missouri, and Kansas. I've been with American Senior Benefits. This is my 18th year. Why that's important for you is because I have seen absolutely everything. I have heard every story. I've looked at every kind of statement. I've analyzed people's insurances. I've analyzed people's accounts. And I want to say a couple things about what you said.
Okay, good.
Now I'm going to stand up.
Okay, good. See, I knew you'd know what to say.
If you guys were here in August of last year, I was at this podium then. I get a little passionate, I get a little loud, and I'm not funny. Okay? Can you hear me?
Yep.
Money is probably the biggest topic that you all have. Seniors in general worry about really two things. One is losing their health. That's the number one concern. Okay? Everybody agree with that? Who's not worried about losing their health? Absolutely nobody raised their hand. That's the number one concern, okay? Number two is losing your money or outliving your money, right? Who's not concerned about outliving their money? Nobody raised their hands, okay? That's because those are the two concerns of all seniors. But with people that are in their 60s, and it continues with people that are now in their 80s and 90s, right? We don't want to be a burden. We don't want to leave our spouse with no money because we've become ill. And so there are things, because I can't lean over, there are things that we can do to help with that, okay? Catherine talked about insurance, but really I wanted to back up a little bit. Let's talk about health, okay? Having things protected for your health is a big deal. My office, all the agents that I have, we call ourselves asset protectors. We help people from health to wealth, right? We help all of the things that have to do with you being healthy and living a better retired life and making sure that you have the money to do that. Now, I'm not here to give you a big pitch about us. Most of you, a lot of you, are already our clients. But I'm here because Catherine asked me to talk about the nest egg and how we protect it. And there's lots of different ways that we can do that, okay? So insurances we're going to get to in just a second. But let's talk about the health. So 68% of all seniors over the age of 65 are going to not be able to do two of the ADLs. Does anybody know what ADL stands for? Yes, ma'am. It's activities of daily living, okay? Eating, transferring, toileting, all of those. 68% of all people 65 above are going to not be able to do two of those things, right? Okay? Or they're going to have a cognitive impairment. These are statistics. I didn't make this up. Well, we have the largest senior population than we've ever had. And that's because of technology, healthcare, new drugs, new prescriptions, people moving and being active like Catherine talked about. That's a huge thing. One of the biggest growing industries in this country is home health care services or assisted living services because we have such a large population. You're not dying. you're just getting better, okay? So that all goes back to that second fear of losing money or not outliving my money. What happens if I continue to do all of these good things and exercise and do, and what I think every advisor tries to do, is we try to help people be able to do all of the things that they want to do, retire money, make sure they have the best type of resources available, and be able to do what you all wanted to do with that American dream, which was to be happy now and keep continuing on, okay? So that's what I'm here to talk with all of you about with her.
So let's talk about unexpected deaths and how the right insurance can help the surviving spouse.
Well, okay, so unexpected deaths, those of you that are married, right? I think it's super important that everybody has a plan. That's one of the reasons why I agreed to do this, is because every day we see people that don't have a plan. I think everyone needs to have a plan, and nobody wants to talk about it. We need to have a plan of, if this happens, what happens next? If one of us passes, what's the next step? And what we find is, with sudden death, is that people didn't plan. We all talk about planning, but we really don't sit down and do it. We all say we're going to have the conversation that's super hard, but nobody really sits down and does it. And all of that has to do whether you want to know where you're going to live if you're not going to live at home, or what you're going to do if a spouse passes, or what you're going to do if you have a long-term care policy and you don't know how to turn it on, what you need as far as insurances and money, okay? So unexpected deaths are probably the worst thing because we don't plan. Katherine and I talked before I came here a couple weeks ago, and we were talking about sustainability reviews. Who's had a sustainability review? Who knows what a sustainability review is? Okay? It's something that we do every single day with people, and that's to sit down and say, okay, here's where you are, here's what you have in place, what's the plan for the next step, and how will your money last you that entire day, or that entire week, or that entire month, or that entire year, or 5 years, or 10 years? What is my sustainability? Okay? It's not something that we just sit down with a pen and paper. We actually have computer systems and programs to be able to help do that. Where do I put my money? How do I make my money safe? I have a guy who helps me. I have an agent who helps me. I have a financial advisor. I have whoever helping me. That's great. But when's the last time you sat down and did a sustainability review?
And are you going to outlive that person?
Yeah, are you
That's
gonna
something I
outlive them?
see a lot. Well, I had an attorney, but he died. I had a financial
yes.
planner, but he has dementia.
Or I had someone and they retired, and now somebody else has taken over, but I haven't seen them yet. Okay? So sudden death is a big thing. I'm going to tell you a real quick story. Unfortunately, my son is back there, so Mason, sorry, I got to tell the story. My mother and my stepdad were married they were together for 40 years, okay? In October of last year, he was, first of all, 11 years younger than my mother.
One of the early cougars.
Yeah, kudos to my mother, okay? Randy was 66 years old in October. He was working 50 hours a week. He was taking care of my mother, 11 years older. My mother has rheumatoid arthritis. She has CLL, which is a form of blood cancer. She had a mitral valve replaced in July of last year. So Randy was taking care of her because they live in Missouri. In October, he had a massive heart attack. What we didn't know is that Randy had been having lots of little heart attacks. He just said he had shoulder pain. My shoulder hurts. I hurt my shoulder. Well, in October, after my mother had open heart surgery and a valve replaced in July, in October, Randy had a massive heart attack. He had to have triple bypass surgery. We had no idea. The man was no bigger than a minute, wasn't overweight, actively working, actively doing all of the things that people do, taking care of the yard, taking care of the trees, going to the store for my mother who has cataracts that couldn't drive. Okay? In December, he died. I did not realize, and I'm her agent. My son was Randy's agent. Okay? I told them, you have to do this. You have to do this. Have you got this in place? Are you ready for this? And they both said yes. We did everything you told us to do. My mother would say, Randy's talking to Mason. Mason's got it handled. I would say, Mother, this is what we have to have in place. Did you talk to the attorney? Have you made sure you know what you're doing with this? Oh, I got it all done. Wrong. Completely and utterly wrong. Randy passed away. I immediately went to Missouri to help my mother. I had no idea Randy was doing so many things for my mother that she could not do. From opening milk cartons, to taking the pans out of the cupboard and putting them on the counter for my mom so she could cook dinner for Randy when he got home, that he would have dinner. He was doing all the heavy lifting for her. Going to the grocery store because she just could not drive. And I knew that he was helping her, but I did not know how much he was helping her until I got there.
And a lot of people kind of keep it a little secret, too.
Yeah, you don't tell your kids, somebody's got to help me to do this, and I need help to do that, okay? The reason that I say all of these things is that it was a big eye-opener for me to have been doing this for so long and sitting in front of people and forcing them, when I sit in front of them, to bring me everything that you have, and let's sit down and make a plan now, that I didn't do that for my mother and for Randy. Why? Because nobody wants to talk about money. Nobody wants to have the conversation about money. I have no problem if you sat in front of me in my office or I was at your table to say, let me see your statements. Let me see your plan. Let me sit down and go over what you have. What are you wanting to do with these funds? Do you need income? I do that for people several times a day, every single day, and I did not do it for my mother. Why? Because nobody wants to ask their parents about their money. Nobody wants to sit down with their mom and their stepdad and say, how much is in the bank? What insurances do you have besides the ones that I have for you? What's happening with the money that's in the bank? What's happening with your advisor? What are you doing with those 401ks that Randy still is getting for work? Okay? So this whole thing has been a big deal for me about the money, more so about making people have a plan than it ever was before. So that's why I'm here, is to talk about that plan. Let's talk insurance, because Katherine brought it up. Long-term care insurance. Who in this room has long-term care? Okay, a lot of you have long-term care. Long-term care is absolutely an amazing thing. How many of you, when you bought your long-term care, it was 10 years ago or more, 10 or more years ago, okay? How many of you have had a rate increase on your long-term care policy, or they said they were going to reduce benefits, right? Okay, almost everybody. Do you know why? So when I first started 18 years ago, long-term care was a big thing. We put in place a lot of long-term care policies for people. John Hancock and some of these very large companies, they wrote lots of long-term care business. They had fantastic products for us to present to clients. But then you all are living longer, right? But you're living longer in care, and I guarantee you the agent that wrote the policy for you said, we've never had a rate increase on long-term care policies. Right? How many of you heard that? Yeah, see, same thing. See the hands. We've never had an increase on long-term care. Well, that's true because people died. They didn't have to raise the rates because people were dying and the premiums had come in. They never used the policy. So now we have a situation where people are living longer, but they're living in longer in care, so it's not advantageous for the insurance companies to write those policies anymore. And since they're not writing new policies, they have to make money and sustain off of the premiums that you're paying in, so they raise those rates, okay? Long-term care is a beautiful thing. But right now, where I could have put a place 10, 15 years ago, a policy in place for somebody turning 65 for about $200, for a male turning 65, it's an average of $875 a month to have a $180,000 pool of benefits. $180,000 will last you about 2 years. That's average for the country, okay? So people are trying to figure out how do I hedge that bet? And you can do that with lots of different types of policies, right? You can do that with lots of different types of accounts. But the main thing is trying to figure out how to make that happen. Because we do have 68% of people over 65 that are going to need some type of care, right? So we have to figure out how we're going to pay for it. The whole thing about the government taking care of you is really a hard thing. Has anybody talked to each other about Medicaid and, oh, I'm just going to have the government take care of me, I'm going to be eligible for Medicaid? The state of Kansas has rules on that, all states do, about the healthy spouse and the community spouse, and how much can be used and how much has to be spent down. It's a big thing. It's a big calculation for the state. And most people think that all of that can be taken care of and that the state will come in and pay for it, but the state can come back after you've passed to try and recoup some of those funds. Okay? And that is a huge thing, but people don't think about that. Let's talk about money. How do you change that? I'm not going to ask you how many of you lost money last year, because I know some of you did. I love the chuckle, okay? How many people just were told, don't worry about it, the market's going to come back, you're going to recoup some of those funds? Right? Okay.
And that can work when you're younger and people have been trained to hang in there.
But here's the thing, that's the whole thing. So that sustainability is the big deal. When you're 35, 45, 55, and you're still working and the market drops, it's not as big of a deal. It still hurts, but you're still going to be working for the next 15, 20 years, contributing to that fund, contributing to that 401k account, and you're going to keep putting money in, so when the market drops, you're making up some of the difference yourself because you're still working. When you're retired, you're in preservation mode. I have what I have, I want to keep it, I don't want anybody to touch it, and I don't want to lose it. Right? So I'm going to say a really dirty word. Are you ready? Annuity. How many of you have been told, don't ever put your money in an annuity? Really? Oh, I see little tiny hands, like nobody wants to raise it. Okay, here's the thing. In 2020, we had a big pandemic, right? In 2021, annuity across the country, annuity deposits and annuity policies went up 12.3%. Okay? That's 233 billion, billion with a B, $233 billion in 2021 was put in annuities by seniors, mostly seniors, okay? In 2022, $333 billion, just last year, a 23% increase from the year before, was put into annuity policies. Do you know why? People want to A, hang on to their money, and they need income, okay? Annuities are for income. They're not really to just put there and let them do their deal. They're to be used for income. And there's ways to create never-ending, increasing income for you all, right? There's ways to be able to do that so that you don't have to maybe worry about whether or not the market drops or worry about if you're going to have something to leave to your kids, because that's what they're for. They're for income.
And yeah, and there's other things too that are out there. So are you getting the idea that she knows some stuff? And you know the attorneys know some stuff? And there's a lot that can be done to help you navigate things better. And well, I've got to bring Jacob up. And so we just want to give you the idea that a volunteer that took an 8-hour class and is volunteering to help you figure out what to do with your money or your insurance.
Or your health insurance or
that
anything
is
like
not
that.
adequate. Okay, you need to go to the best of the best, the people that really, really, really know.
And there's lots of us out there, okay? I just want to make sure everybody understands this. There's lots of us out there that know what we're doing. Most people have more than one person helping them. So my successful clients have a financial advisor, and they have me as their insurance agent and retirement specialist. So you can have more than one person. And you always should do some type of review of what's going on with your health care and your wealth care. Okay.
Yeah. Yep. So when you're retired, hopefully you feel like you have some time that you can do things. So this is the perfect time to do some tours, do some meetings, do some consults, ask questions right now. And you can keep that mic.
I'm going to keep the mic.
Keep
I
the
can
mic. Yeah, but I got to bring
somebody
Jacob.
sent me something. I'm going to say one more thing. I'll sit down. Somebody sent me something on the internet when this whole thing went out with that I was going to be here, that they wanted to ask me pros and cons of guaranteed income annuities, I think is what the thing said. There's pros and cons to everything. I know all of them. So I hope that I get to at least tell you pros and cons of things. There's pros and cons to long-term care. There's pros and cons to life insurance. There's pros and cons to financial or final expense. There's pros and cons to Medicare supplements versus Medicare Advantage plans. We've got pros and cons to everything. Our job is to help you navigate the whole thing. Our job is to make sure that you have somebody to navigate it. Okay?
Yep. So we were talking, come on up, Jacob. Yep, have a seat. So in high school, you took certain subjects to prepare for life. Don't you think this sounds complicated and complex? And there's some subjects that we need to do some studying on. Jacob, I apologize that we're so slow.
No,
but
it's okay.
Here's your clicker, because all your slides are on there.
I have
And
my
I've
tool.
invited him for a very specific reason. I think you're going to learn a lot.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Jacob. Thankfully, I really not long. And I'm the residence director at the Regent, independent living, over on the east side of town. So I've been doing independent living and senior operations for the last about 10 years. I have experience in independent living, assisted living, and memory care. So I've kind of seen it all as far as senior living goes. Sorry, how's that going? Good. Okay. I do have some slides with some information I think will be very helpful for some of the things that we've gone over. I know Katherine touched on a lot of the things, but today's talk was supposed to be the nest egg talk, spending and protecting money. I like the first part much better. Spending money sounds like a lot more fun to me than protecting money. But there's a right way to spend money, there's a wrong way. Either way you look at it, you're spending money whether you're staying home, whether you're going to a retirement community. No matter what you're doing, you're spending money. So let's look at what do that and what the costs are of each. So the number one question that I usually get from people, and I know is probably a big question that you all have, is when is the right time to move? That's a hard one to answer. There's no cut and dry answer for it, but there's things that you can do so that you know or you can feel that you've made the right answer to that question. You've made the right move. For me in independent living now, it's a much more moving target, but then when you're looking more towards nursing and assisted care, I think the answer is a little more clear. When you have to have that help, then you make that decision. But for independent living, we'll look at a little more of the ambiguity of that answer. So the three things that we look at when we're talking about the right time to move is the numbers, the value of vitality, go over with all of our new prospects, this is a cost of living comparison. So this is an honest to goodness look at what you're actually spending when you're at home versus what you would spend if you moved to a community. So a true breakdown of costs, because like Katherine was saying, a lot of you may own your homes, even if you do or do not. I mean, there's still expenses, there's still things that you're paying every day when you're at home compared to what you would get inside of a community. So I've done a little math on this one. This is for the value of, say your home is valued at $250,000, and then these are the average costs in the city of Wichita. So we've got our property taxes there, utilities, home maintenance. This is broken down to a monthly cost, homeowners insurance, homeowners dues, food expenses, security monitoring, housekeeping, all of those items. So on average, spending monthly, and this is without a mortgage payment, $2,584.81. So that's your average cost of what you're spending at home, even without a mortgage payment when you're staying there. On the left there, you see some potential income. And I know we just talked about how this last year has not been good for investing, but in a normal year, so let's say we sell that $250,000 home, make some net proceeds around $232,000 and invest those, and you can hopefully get a return on that. Then you've got some income coming in, and you can send that over to what you can now spend on senior living. So Katherine said you're sitting on a pile of money when you're in your house, and really you are, but if you're in it, it's not doing anything for you. You're just sitting there. Sometimes you're a prisoner of your home, but it's not providing any value to you. Once you sell your home, you can invest that value. If you then look, is anybody surprised by that number for the average cost of rent? So that's a one-bedroom apartment at the Regent, and that's general price for everyone else too. So $3,500 a month for rent. And how that compares to home expenses. Does that surprise anyone with those numbers? You can't see them. I'm sorry.
And is food included in the $2,500 at home?
Yes.
Okay.
So all of those things that we went over are included in senior living. So food, activities, transportation, everything is included in senior living. So those are all the things that you gain that you no longer have to pay for. So all those little costs, that $2,584 that you're spending at home, you no longer spend. Everything's included when you move into senior living. So that's a breakdown of numbers.
And you've got 3 meals a day.
3 meals a day.
An amazing chef that's cooked for celebrities and cooked all over the country. Snacks 24/7.
Absolutely.
Loads and loads of fun things to sign up to go do.
Yep.
Free transportation.
So Katherine got the into her experience yesterday. She was talking about her referrals, and this is a plug for her, but if you do work with Katherine to do moving, honestly, she's with you the entire way, and she's an amazing resource and stays with you and makes sure that you're never alone. So she came to our community yesterday and toured with one of her clients and got to see everything that we do. So really, if you go with Katherine, you're in good hands. So she got to see all that we do. I know Katherine was excited yesterday. We're going to see Beauty and the Beast at the theater at the end of the month here. So those are the kinds of fun things.
My client loves music theater, and she hasn't been able to go. And she has to get rides from friends to get her hair done and things like that. So this is going to be a tremendous lifestyle change that's going to create more independence. Because sometimes we attach independence to staying in our own home when we really could be, in some situations like this, way more independent because we can take care of our own stuff. And we don't have to beg and borrow family or neighbors to do things for us because we got it handled.
And then I know, and Katherine touched on this too, so not everyone has a home. Not everyone is going to have that equity to sell. How many of you don't currently own a home? So a few. So the nice thing with senior living, and I'm not just here to talk about the Regent, Wichita has a great market for senior living of all different kinds. There's a budget for everyone, there's a place for everyone, and you can find what fits you and your budget best. You don't have to have the $250,000 home to sell to make assets. There's something out there for everyone. Another area that I wanted to talk about, and Katherine asked me to speak on, is has anyone heard the term CCRC before? A few of you. So that's Continuing Care Retirement Community or Retirement Campus. So these are your large multi-property communities. So for those of you that live on the east side of town, think Larksfield. So they have their independent living, their memory care, their skilled nursing, everything all on that really large campus. For those on the west side of town, Park West Plaza is one. Think everything on the big campus there. The thing that's different about a CCRC as compared to, say, traditional retirement living or assisted living and memory care is they have a buy-in. So they're called buy-in communities, and that requires a large sum down, usually around $200,000 to $300,000, and that's your buy-in. That's your kind of your deposit when you move in. That stays with you while you're there. It doesn't all go away. When you move out of one of those communities, it is returned to you, or if you pass away while you live there, is returned to your family. You get about 85 to 95% of that back, depending on which community you go to. So that's a little bit different. So those require a large buy-in. The advantages of that, these communities have all the levels of care. We were talking earlier about how we said, if I spend all my money, the government will take care of me. And then Katherine talked about that nursing home that we've all visited when we were younger that we never want to go to ever again. And there are those places out there too. And those are your Medicaid-only places. But places like these CCRCs will accept Medicaid, but they require you to spend down. So what you're doing by moving in there is planning ahead. You're doing that spend down, that plan ahead, and you're reserving your spot for the future. So that if you do spend down, you'll be able to do that. It doesn't work for everyone. It doesn't work in every situation, but that is an advantage of a CCRC. All of these pictures, by the way, are residents at the Regent. They're not just people. So, and the reason I put Sylvia up here, so the value of vitality. One of the big costs, and I'll speak in the positive form, value of vitality, rather than the negative form, which is the cost of dragging your feet. So the cost of isolation, there's obviously health costs, and they're listed there, but Sylvia is a resident at the Regent, and when Sylvia moved in, so I first met Sylvia, she came in, she was, and obviously she's a beautiful woman, well put together now, but when I first met her, she was disheveled. She was nothing like she looks now. Very depressed, and you could just tell when you see a person that just that she was just defeated. Her husband had passed within the last 6 months. She'd been living alone in that time. She's from Iowa. She didn't have any other family out there. Her entire family is from Wichita, and honestly, they had started to look at one of our sister communities for skilled nursing because they thought it was the end. They thought there was nothing more for Sylvia. She had given up. She didn't want to do anything else. But our sister community called us and said, honestly, there's nothing health-wise wrong with Sylvia. She just doesn't have the desire to do anything. Could she come over there and see your building? I said, absolutely. We'd love to have her. So she came in and toured, and we told her, if for nothing else, save the money. Move to independent living. You don't need the assistance that skilled nursing provides, even though you may want to not have to do anything. Save the money, come to independent living. And she did. This is Sylvia now. Sylvia doesn't leave her apartment without being completely put together like that. Sylvia is one of our ambassadors. She obviously volunteered to be in our advertising, and the socialization just completely brought her back to life. So she met all new friends, all new what she would call her family, and she's just completely thriving. So the cost of her dragging her feet without trying to be over dramatic, she could have passed. She could have been gone by this time at the rate she was going. But because she made the choice to get back out there, to make new friends, to become social again, she's now thriving. She's doing much better. And that is the value. So the value relationships. This is Willis. Willis has a similar story as well. And then the exclusive opportunities. So we talked a little bit about how we're going to the show. Some of the nice things that you can do as part of a community, and one, it doesn't cost then when you're living in a community. We're going to like Beauty and the Beast. For you all, if you're going to Beauty and the Beast, you can go and sit in the crowd and watch Beauty and the Beast. It's going to be a great show. For us, we're going to go and watch the show, and then we're going to go backstage, and we're going to meet the actors. And we get to do that because we're the Regent, and we can schedule those in-person, those over-the-top things because we just have the ability with more of us. There's a pull having a community rather than just a single person. We've got exclusive memberships with, I know Rainier Academy is a partner of Catherine's. They're a firearms academy if you ever want to learn how to shoot a gun. They're one of our partners, so we go meet with them every month. We go to the shooting range there. So just a lot of exclusive and fun different things we can do. We'll be at Eldersley Farm on Tuesday if anybody's out there picking blackberries. You'll see us there too. And then the negative there, what if you wait too long? So if you do wait too long, ultimately the cost of if you don't move when you can go into retirement living, and let's say you wait until you have to go to memory care, until you have to go to skilled nursing, costs are exponentially different. We talked about our average cost of about $3,000. Average cost in skilled nursing, you're going to be $10,000 plus. So there's a huge cost factor there if you wait too long. And the market. So Wichita had a unique thing the last couple of years. Has anybody driven down 21st Street on the east side of town recently and seen a lot of construction? So Wichita for the last 15 years has had very little in terms of new properties opening up. And for whatever reason, in the last year and a half, 2 years, we've gotten noticed by a lot of builders. So Wichita had 4 different independent living communities, and one of them, a CCRC, start building on 21st Street. And it's because of what's being called the silver tsunami. So what generation is becoming seniors right now? Baby boomers. So not only are there advances in healthcare that are helping our seniors live longer, we are getting a lot more seniors because of the baby boomer generation. Investors are seeing that and wanting to take advantage. So these investors have come into Wichita and started to have already, unfortunately, backed out of Wichita, but we are starting to see more on the market. This is a good thing, but it's also not enough. So there are about 100 people in this room, and there are about 100 new apartments coming on the market. If all of you moved in, obviously that fills that demand, but as demand sits right now, we are currently on a wait list. I think Oxford, our friends there, are currently on a wait list as well. So there is a demand to make that decision now rather than waiting or to plan ahead, because when you're looking for where you want to go, honestly, it just won't be available. More and more seniors are aging into that population, and there's more and more competition amongst customers looking for those spots. So I encourage you to make that decision sooner rather than later. That's all I have. Catherine, do we want to do questions?
Yes, let's do. And I'm sorry we're running late, and we understand if you've got to run, but we're going to go ahead and take some questions. Have a seat, Jacob, if you will. So I knew a lady that really wanted to move into the Regent really, really, really bad, and she wanted her and her husband to go through the house, sell the home, take care of all the stuff in the house, and do that together. And she wanted to get someplace where she could be social. He wanted to just live in the home until he died. So recently we learned he passed away, and I thought, oh, well, he got his wish. I talk to people all the time. I just wish I could just live in my home till I die. Well, a lot of times that just doesn't happen, and you could be missing out on a lot of stuff. But I thought he got his wish, and then I thought, well, wait a minute. That means she didn't get her wish, because her wish was that we do this together as a team. We take care of our stuff as a team, and we go together somewhere. And so I think that women, maybe more than men, think that they have a lot of pressure ahead because they're so worried about the house and all the stuff. And so a lot of times it's women that want to move first. Sometimes it's men, but they're usually doing it because they want to take care of their wife. But I think it's real important, just like your stepfather passed away before you expected. Sometimes it's the healthy one that goes first. And we need to be thinking about the spouse and where would you be okay if something happened to me? And taking care of things together, because otherwise it does fall on one person. And maybe then that's when the family steps in too to help. What kind of questions do you have? And attorneys in the room, did you think of some things that you might want to make people aware of? They're already starting to get hit up.
My name is Ben Carmichael. I'm an attorney over at Morris Lang, and I did think of something that I did want to talk about. When you approached our firm about joining Empowered Seniors, I think one of the first things I talked to you about was, can we do that under the ethical rules that govern attorneys? How many in the room know that attorneys are governed by ethical rules and we have a professional conduct that we have to follow? So quite a few of you. So, part of that is duties and obligations of what we owe the client. So when we come to a seminar like this is an education thing. So I'm not giving legal advice. We're not giving specific advice to people. What we are here to do is to educate people about what you should be doing, things you should be aware of, and things to be looking forward for. And in the money context, what we're talking about here today, one of the big things that I see that people may not be aware of is who owes you a duty. Obviously, your attorney owes you a duty. But if you have a financial advisor, if you have somebody who is looking for insurance for you, one of the questions that you should ask is, are you my fiduciary? Do you owe me an obligation, or are you in business for yourself? Is this a business transaction, or are you looking out for me? It's one of the big things that you should be aware of. It's something you should ask your financial advisor. Are you my fiduciary? Do you have my best interest in your mind when you are doing work for me? And it kind of goes hand in hand with the message that has been repeated today, which is plan early and plan often. We see very often people wait until things happen, the unexpected occurs, and then they come see us. And estate litigation is not something that you want to end up in. If you can avoid that, if you can get a plan in place, talk about what your assets are, talk about what you want to happen with them, and talk to your family about that same thing. And that is what popped into my head today as I was sitting here.
Great.
Thank you.
Excellent input. It's so important. So fiduciary. How about back here?
Well, yeah, I think what struck me today is, and I think my bit of advice to give to everyone, and sorry to make everyone do a 360, is really the team approach. Your attorneys are part of a team, and I work with a lot of clients in the estate planning context that come to me from various different sources. And, I always find that if you have a financial advisor that you work with, oftentimes they're probably going to be talking to you about making sure you get your estate planning in place. But some of the financial advisors I work with, when they refer a client to me, that client is really up to speed. They're educated. They have an idea. They're thinking about this, or they've got an insurance agent that they're working with. And so I really think that utilizing that team approach is really great, because we all the professionals that are part of that team come to your service with different levels of expertise. And so that's my advice is that the team aspect is very important, very helpful.
Excellent, Jason. Thank you. I just think it's so amazing to have attorneys that come and participate in this and that they're here to answer your questions. I just feel like that's so honorable and respectful, and we're so blessed by you guys. Those were really good points. So you all need a team. You need to have a team in place, and I can tell you for certain that sometimes it comes down to your team or one of your team members that can save somebody. It could be a financial planner that alerts the other people involved that there's a problem going on with elder abuse or with money. And you want a relationship with your attorney and your financial planner and the people out there that can help you with all your Medicare stuff because it's complicated. If you go to volunteer to get help on insurance, they're not going to be there to help you make all the phone calls that need to be made to sort out a Medicare issue. These people are really important and can be your, and I'm not saying this lightly, protectors. You need to have professional people that know you and are looking out for you because they can save you from things happening that would surprise you, by people that would surprise you. Sheree?
So I just have a couple of things. I'm Sheree Fleetwood, American Senior Benefits. Our company believes in a few things. One, putting people back in the people business. That is big. We love that people see us locally. That is a big deal. You really want to have that person. I really liked what he said about, are they working for me or are they working for themselves? The other thing we say all the time is, you do the right things for the right reasons, and the money comes. And truly, that is how we work. If we bring in new people into our office and they don't work that way, they don't work. Because we actually do that for everybody. And lastly, I tell all of my clients, when it comes to downsizing, moving, and making those decisions, you do it when you can, not when you have to. Because then you have to make rash decisions and things don't usually go the way you want them to go. So
I want to add one more thing to what Sheree said. When we sit down with individuals, and those of you that have sat with me, you know this. When we sit down with people, we ask you specific questions. Who's your property and casualty agent? Who's your go-to kid? Who's your attorney? Who is your financial advisor? We sit down and we ask if it's okay for us to talk to them. We do that because he's exactly right. It is a team effort. I don't have all of the answers for everything, but I am able to find the answers, okay? We do more education than I could ever tell you because we're in the community all the time. Most of the time, it's people sitting down with us asking questions about what they currently have or what they currently are doing. And we give them advice based on what that is. It's not about trying to switch everybody's person to a different person. We really want to know who you have already and who you're working with, because in the event that something happens to you and we're helping and we're part of that mix, we're going to reach out to those people as well, that team that you have, so that we can make sure all of your bases are covered, okay? And the fiduciary is a big deal. You want people that are working for you in your best interest and not their best interest. Mm-hmm. And unfortunately, there's scams everywhere. We have stuff happening all the time. My mother gets 50 calls a day from different things happening. So the team is a big deal. And I think that's why Katherine's so picky about who she has that sponsors her things and who she has come up and speak and sit and talk to you guys, because we are a team.
Very good. When we want to have you work with people that like working with seniors, duh, and that will look you in the eye and that they do have your best interest in mind, because that's one of the challenges, like trying to figure out who to trust, talking to your money about your money, because sometimes mom's like, oh gosh, here she comes. Because sometimes when you go talk to people about money, what do you feel like?
Well, I'm scared. I'm not too sure they're working for me. Even if they call themselves a fiduciary, I'm not completely trustworthy.
Right. So you do need to be a little suspicious. And it's just, who can we trust who really has our best interests, not theirs, at heart? And when you're building a team, that's how you can have some confidence in that. So I'm sorry we made it go so late. Thank you for being